Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for folks right from the speakers. Welcome. We're so glad to have you here. I am going to turn this over to the main event in just one moment, but a brief introduction. My name is David Scheer. I'm State Director for Congresswoman Balint. We're so pleased to be up here. I did just want to note, we have several staff from the office who, if you have questions during the event, after the event, we are happy to be a resource. I'm one of them. We've got a couple. There's Thomas, there's Jessica. So feel free to approach us anytime. And in these community events, our normal practice is we'll do some questions that some folks submitted on the RSVP form. We'll also take some questions from the crowd. The Congresswoman will call on folks. We do generally like to have people who haven't had a chance yet to speak up first. So if you've already asked a question, we'd ask that you let folks who haven't had a chance to do that to go ahead. And also just to be respectful of everybody else in the room and keep your questions to a reasonable length. So thank you all for being here. And without any further ado, Congresswoman Becca Balint.
Appreciate that. Please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. I am so happy to be here today, and I am just so delighted that so many of you were able to carve out some time. I know how precious your time is, and it means a lot to me that you're taking time today to engage with me. That's how I do my job better. So I thought that what I would do is just talk for a few minutes about where we are and then turn it over to all of you. And yes, I am standing on a booster because I am tiny. And that's okay, I'm comfortable with that. So I am your lone representative to Congress. And that means a lot to me. And that means I gotta get it right as much as I can, because I'm all you get in the house. So I wanna make sure that I am working hard on behalf of all of you. For many of you who have never met me, I am a former teacher. I taught middle school, which is actually perfect preparation for Congress. I live down at the other end of the state. I live in Windham County, and I have a spouse and 2 kids. Both my kids are in high school right now, and I thought I would just talk about sort of how the cycle of working in Congress goes. So basically, every week I fly down to DC at the beginning of the week, and then fly back at the end of the week. And every 3rd or 4th week, I have an in-district week, which is why I'm able to be here today. And when I was first running for Congress, Bernie said to me, it's critically important that you get home every single weekend, whenever you can. You have to be closely in touch with the people that sent you there. And I have really taken that to heart. And a lot of people ask me, how do I do it with my family? My kids are super supportive. They understand that it is a family endeavor to have somebody in Congress. And, you know, my son, who's more conservative than I am, I will walk in the door on Friday and he'll say, let's talk about your votes, Mom. So I am dealing with it in real time at the dinner table on Friday nights. So look, I know from talking with a lot of people when I came in, we do feel like we're at a very tenuous and troublesome time right now. And I know in this room, I'm sure there are people who supported the current president and people who voted against the current president. And I'm here to tell you, I don't care who you voted for. I'm looking forward. My job is to represent all of you. That's my job. You may not like me, you may not appreciate where I'm coming from, or you may not support my policies. That's okay. I represent you in Congress. And I'm gonna make the decisions that I make every single day based on what I think is in the best interest of Vermonters, whether you voted for me or not, okay? I need to say that at the top because there's so much anger and so much partisanship, but I want to tell you a little bit about where I came from in my political journey. So I was in the state senate for years and was the first woman ever to serve as the leader of the Senate in Vermont. And I was elected to that position unanimously. Republicans and Democrats voted for me with one ballot because they knew me as a straight shooter. I don't mess around. I'm candid, and I try to cut through the BS and say, how is this going to impact people on the ground? That, again, I think comes from being a teacher for all those years. When you teach, I was taught 4 different rural public schools in Vermont. When you teach, you get to know not just your students who are coming from all different backgrounds, but you get to know their families, you get to know their struggles, you get to understand the challenges that they have before their kid even comes into the classroom that day. And my North Star is always trying to treat people with dignity and respect. I don't always get it right, sometimes I screw up, but I am someone who will own my mistakes. I am not perfect. I don't expect perfection from other people. So I need you to know this about me before we start this conversation, because I'm going to listen really deeply to what you have to say. I'm going to answer the questions to the best of my ability. You may not agree with what I say, but please know it's coming from a place of understanding the gravity of the job that I have, which is representing everyone regardless of party, which is, I think, something that we have a long tradition following here in Vermont. So I'll just talk about a few things that are worrying me about this moment that we're in. Just a few, because we could, I want to make sure you have a chance to talk here. So I did go to the inauguration. Many of my colleagues did not. I did go because I respect the rule of law. I respect the peaceful transfer of power, and you don't just show up when your person wins. So I went there and I listened to what the president had to say, and I was very, very disturbed that some of the things that he ran on, that he said he was going to do to take care of regular working people in this country, were not at all part of his inauguration speech. He had talked about lowering the cost of prescription drugs on the campaign trail. He talked about investing in housing, because housing is, we have a shortage of it, it's getting more expensive, we're paying too much in rent. He said that he was going to cap the interest rates on credit cards to try to bring down the costs. We have heard nothing about any of these things in the last 2 months. Now, many of his executive orders, we know because federal judges and the Supreme Court have ruled them to be against federal law or the Constitution. And we, as members of Congress, represent one branch. We have our own lane, and the executive branch has their lane, and the judiciary has their lane. That's how the framers set it up. Again, you don't have to necessarily like that system. This is the system we have, which is a system of checks and balances. So I've been alarmed by the number of executive orders that are deemed to be against federal law and the Constitution, but I'm also deeply concerned about Elon Musk. Deeply, deeply concerned. Now, we are Vermonters. We are cheap. We're cheap. Some people, frugal, fine, thrifty. Okay, we don't like to waste money, right? I always say Vermont's held together with duct tape and twine and hundreds of volunteer hours, okay? I get it. So people will ask me, don't you want to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse, okay? It's a fair question. It certainly is a fair question. What we've seen so far from Elon Musk and Doge is not actually about that. It is shutting down entire agencies and departments that he has no legal right to do. Any agency or program that is set up by Congress needs to be shut down by Congress, not by an unelected billionaire who has been mucking around in our personal private information. The other piece of this, you gotta follow the money. Elon Musk is not a disinterested party. He has billions with a B, billions of dollars of federal contracts and subsidies that his businesses get from the federal government. 2 weeks ago, he was deciding that he wanted his company, Starlink, to get a contract. So he went in and pressured people at the agency to take the contract away from Verizon and give it to Starlink. That should alarm all of us. I don't care what party you are, that should alarm all of us. That's not the way you should have somebody involved in this so-called search for waste, fraud, and abuse. The last thing I'll say about that, because I'm sure we'll have questions about it. If you want to find waste, fraud, and abuse, you should start where you're looking at the Pentagon, because they have never, ever passed an audit. Never. So look, I always say in this moment, we have to legislate, but of course, you know, my party right now is in the minority in the House and the Senate. We don't have the White House. We have to litigate when we see any executive doing something that is against federal law or the Constitution. We have to partner with outside partners to bring lawsuits, and that's what we're seeing, the litigation. And then the next thing is agitating as citizens, not as Democrats, as citizens who are deeply concerned about the direction that we are going in. I'll leave foreign affairs over here for a moment. I'm happy to answer questions about that. I always say, ask me anything. I will answer to the best of my ability, but I do want you to understand, we all have a role to play in this. We all have a role. And on a personal note, so I grew up in a family that taught me you always have to be concerned about anyone in power that is doing a couple things specifically, okay? And that's because members of my family were killed in the Holocaust. And I was taught at a young age, be wary of any leader who attacks the press. Be wary of any leader of either party that says they're the only one that can fix things. Okay? It's un-American. We have no kings. We have a president. We have a Congress and a judiciary that act as checks on that. So look, I am one tiny but mighty woman. I am doing everything that I can to make sure Vermont does not get left behind. And the cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to Social Security, this trading war that he started with Canada is not in the best interest of Vermonters. So I think I will leave it there. Thank you again for all being here, and let's hear what you got to say. I'm going to come out front.
Good morning. I'm Greg Manning. I am the Select Board Chair for the Town of Mountain Pond, Town of Brighton. And I want to, on behalf of the Town of Brighton, the Select Board members, and Essex County and Orleans County, welcome. Thank you for taking this opportunity
Appreciate
to
that.
talk to us. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, thank you.
I want to give you a little bit of a lesson, or give you some information.
I would love that.
A little bit of demographics here, up here in the Northeast Kingdom. Number one, Adam Pond is the snowmobile capital of the state. It's not unusual to get 200 to 300 snowmobilers here on a weekend. Now, Orleans County also benefits from our snowmobilers, and we've had a tremendous winter this year.
Thank goodness.
Unfortunately, we're not going to see a season until April 15th, but we can always pray. Somebody told me to take my snowplow off my tractor. Last year I took it off, and that night we got 13 inches of snow. So, let's see here. What you see here, and thank you for everybody coming. I am pleasantly surprised at
It's a great turnout.
the number
Great
of
turnout.
But as I look out here, disproportionately, I see seniors, retirees, people on assistance, people that are unemployed. And it's probably because we're holding this
In the middle of the day.
a weekday. If we hold it on a weekend, you'll probably have a lot of more employed Vermonters here that would voice their
Appreciate that.
concern. So I'm inviting you back this summer. 4th of July weekend here is tremendous. Okay. We are, and I don't think anybody will disagree, that Vermont and the Northeast, especially the Northeast Kingdom, we are in economic distress. Vermont overall unemployment is relatively low, 2.4%. However, Orleans and Essex County, depending on the data you look at, has the highest rate of unemployment, 3.4, 4.1, depending on what you look at. Median salary here in Essex County is $45,000 to $48,000. So we are poor. Essex County is the poorest county in Vermont. Okay. So many of us, and I'm retired. I retired from the military. I was gone for 47 years and moved back, third generation Maine, to be a select board member here in town. So I'm giving back to my roots. Thank you.
I think you should clap for that.
What we are dealing with, and all this is local issues, but your office is not without influence on our local leadership. We are paying extraordinarily crazy amount of property tax. Legislature just raised it 14%, with a discussion of maybe even raising as much as 5 more. School tax. That is the lion's share of what we pay. And the communities have been assessed fees to support the administration of education in the state of Vermont. The state of Vermont has the highest cost of education administration in the entire nation. That's ridiculous. More money is going to administration than they are teaching our children. So, there's a little bit of history of the region, and I'd like to take the opportunity to ask your first question, if I may. Okay. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, 2 daughters, 2 granddaughters. My daughters were in sports. My granddaughters of 5 years are in sports. I'd like to know why you voted no on protecting our children, our girls and women, to allow men, boys, play in women's sports.
Okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Let's answer the question. Let's do it. Ask me anything, I appreciate it. I was an educator for years. So I want to be really clear. There is a role for schools, there's a role for the NCAA to play, for college organizations to play around this issue. What I know is, from having been a teacher, that you should never in Congress be passing a bill that makes it illegal for any kid to play on a sports team as young as kindergarten. And that's what that bill did. this the other day. The population of transgender people in this country is minuscule. It's tiny. And I think at the collegiate level, I might be wrong, I think there's only 11 transgender athletes that play at the collegiate level, okay? So I ask us all, why are we spending so much time talking about an issue that impacts so few people when we could be talking about an issue that really benefits many more people? But I also want to acknowledge that you are not the only dad or granddad that I have heard say something like that to me, either here in Vermont or elsewhere. And what we have said is, there are governing bodies to make this decision, but Congress should not be telling any parent that their 5th grader or 3rd grader or kindergartner cannot play on a sports team. So that's where I come down on that, and I appreciate the question.
All right. So we'll hop back and forth here between many of the questions that you asked when you RSVP'd, and the Congressman will take some questions from the floor as well. But we'll start with one question. We got actually many questions that were very similar to this one.
Okay.
Are you concerned about DOJ's actions, that's Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, those actions, and in particular, how they might impact benefits like Medicare and Social Security that many Americans rely on, and what Congress might be able to do to prevent any raid on Social Security and Medicare?
Yes, I'm deeply concerned. It is a top concern of mine, and actually we're hearing this in pretty much every congressional district right now, that you want people who have been vetted, who have passed a security background check, to be the ones that are having access to our personal private data, whether it is through Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, or at the Treasury Department. And right now, there's not a lot of transparency. For somebody who's talking about how important it is to have transparency, we, as members of Congress, can't get answers from DOJ about what they're doing, how they're doing it, what changes they're making to our computer codes, who in their team has access to our personal private data. And last week, Musk was invited before a congressional committee that has oversight. That is literally their job. And he refused to come, and the Republicans would not let him testify. That's not transparency. The other thing I'm worried about, the things that they have put on the website. So I don't know if you saw the press conference that President Trump had with Elon Musk in the Oval Office. It's probably like 3 weeks ago now. And in that press conference, the press asked Elon Musk, when are you going to start posting things on the DOJ website so that we know what you're doing? And he said, it's already up there. And the press went. And it was literally a blank page. You can go back in the news and see this. It was a blank page. And so then they realized, oh, I guess we should start putting some stuff on there. Well, every time they seem to put on a savings, 2 days later, some folks who are in the press will do the research and they'll realize actually that program they said they shut down was actually shut down by George W. Bush or H.W. Bush. Or that program that they said cost $8 billion, actually it only cost $8 million, okay? The numbers don't add up. That's all I'm asking. If you feel so confident in the work that you're doing, then show us the real data, okay? That's the first thing. I'm deeply concerned that gosh, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I think it's important. So, X is losing a lot of money, okay? He bought X, it's losing a lot of money, and he is hemorrhaging money, okay? It is not a far leap to think that having access to our personal private data is a way to hook people back in to the next money-making scheme he has, which is to turn X into kind of like an online bank, okay? So, again, I will say, follow the money. Who's benefiting, who's not. It's not us who are benefiting from him having that access. I'm concerned that, and this is sort of a different issue, but it's related. You had President Trump promise a huge tax cut to what I would define as the very wealthy in this country. In order to pay for that tax cut, okay, they have to make some choices about where we're spending money and where we're not. The budget framework that the Republicans passed last week, and I'm on the budget committee, so I speak from authority. I was in the room when we were debating these things. Part of the budget framework included an $880 billion cut to Medicaid. And when we called them on it, they said, no, the language is vague. We're not going after Medicaid, except if you know what is in that agency's purview, and the only kind of money that the only place you can find that kind of money is in Medicaid. So they're too clever by half. They're just like, no, it's vague, it doesn't say that. But when you dig into the details, there's only one way that they can get that money, and that's cutting $880 billion from Medicaid. And you know who that impacts? The poor. And it impacts children. And so I'm concerned about people not getting their health care, but I'm also concerned about every single hospital in Vermont who relies on Medicaid dollars to keep the doors open. It's not good for us. It's not. So we can debate whether we should be extending a tax cut to the very wealthy. That is a policy decision. We can have that debate. I just want people to be honest about what will have to be cut in order to pay for it. The other thing that I found very alarming was that I introduced several amendments. So an amendment is a change to a bill, okay? And when you're in the committee of budget, you get to introduce amendments. And I said, okay, so if you're serious about not cutting Medicaid and not cutting Social Security, then let's add an amendment that says you will not touch Social Security. You will not touch Medicaid. And every single Republican on that committee did not support those amendments. So that tells you something. They know where the money is. Okay? So, I'm always thinking about how these policies impact us. 28%, I believe, of folks in this county get their health care through Medicaid. Almost a third. So when someone tells me they're going to cut hundreds of billions of dollars, I'm thinking about all of you. That's how I make my decisions. So I am deeply concerned about this. We have been demanding answers. I went down to Treasury and asked to be let inside as a member of Congress. They refused us. I went down to the Education Department, demanded to be let in as a member of Congress. We have always had access to these buildings. We have always had access to the agency heads, because that is our job, is to get answers. We do not have open lines of communication with this administration, and Elon Musk will not go on the record about what he's doing. And so yes, that I find deeply troubling, and I think, again, we all should, regardless of party. And I don't think, as I said, I have a son who's more conservative than I am. He's 17, he knows everything, right? Like every 17-year-old knows. But he said to my spouse last night, he said, you know, I'm really concerned that even for people who supported Donald Trump, Elon Musk is a liability. Because he is not focusing on the right things, and I believe it's because he has his own interests in mind. So.
This process.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I agree. So, I touched on it in the middle, at the beginning here. We have to continue to legislate where we can, okay? We don't have the majority in the House or the Senate. And right now, we do not have partners in the House on the Republican side. We just need 3. Just 3. To say, this has gone too far. Like, I supported these things, but this other thing they're doing, didn't vote for that. Just 3. And right now, I want to just peel the curtain back, okay? Because you don't get to be in the elevators with these people, and I do. No, they're people. Look, I see everyone's basic humanity and dignity. So when I'm on the elevator, they're just people to me, and I'm trying to make a connection. Here's what I know, which you won't see them say on the news, is they're terrified. They're terrified. Because the last time they defied the president was we had a big battle for the speaker. Okay, I don't want to I want to live past trauma here, but for weeks and weeks, that House of Representatives did not have a speaker, and they kept trying to find a Republican to run for speaker. And every time they thought I had a candidate, Trump would tweet about it, he would threaten people with primary challenges, and then all of a sudden that person wasn't running for speaker anymore. So they learned from that. And as that dragged on, people started showing up at their houses. People started showing up harassing their wives and children. A mob boss. It is reminiscent of Sopranos. But so they will tell you, what do you want us to do? I literally have people at home telling me, don't stick my neck out because I don't want our family to be a target. So, well, I understand, but I'm not casting judgment. I'm not excusing. I'm explaining. So some are scared. Some are very happy to have the power for power's sake, and some would like to continue to serve, but they don't think they'll be able to continue to serve because Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, has already said to them, if you don't fall in line, we will primary and get you all out of Congress. So yes, the question is, why don't they step down? That is for them to answer. That's between them and their spiritual guide. But I know these people, and most of them do not support what's happening right now, but they won't speak up. So that tells me the rot runs pretty deep, okay? I know you had a question. So wait, I didn't fully answer your question. I will get to you. So we have to legislate, but we don't have 3 partners right now on the other side. So we can do maneuvers, we can do procedural maneuvers to try to block, which is why I was furious with what happened in the Senate the other day. Because we had a lever, and we didn't use it. And so we have to use those levers when we can. We have to continue to litigate. Again, when there is overreach, we have to continue to push these legal cases, but we all have to educate ourselves. I'm a teacher. Knowledge is power. We all have to be skeptical. I'm skeptical. I read news across the political spectrum. I talk to people across the political spectrum. Do not take what you see online as fact. You have to do some of your own research here. And it's hard. We're exhausted. We're overwhelming. Many of us are just trying to piece things together on the home front. But I want you each to take one issue. Is it Social Security? Is it Medicaid? Is it the fact that Elon Musk is compromised? What is the issue that for you is lighting you up? And do your own research. Don't get it from MSNBC. Don't get it from Fox News. Do your own research across the board. Figure out what the truth of it is. And then I need you to, if you're online, some of you are, some of you aren't. If you're online, I need you to post about it. Hey, not in a threatening manner, but I'm doing my own research here. This is what I'm learning. I also need people to understand that democracy only works if we're engaged. It's an idea. Democracy is an idea, okay? Without our engagement, it falls apart. So I have heard from a lot of Vermonters over the last 2 months, I'm so glad that you're representing us because now I don't have to pay attention. That's the totally wrong takeaway, although I appreciate the vote of confidence. Don't necessarily trust what I'm saying. You've got to educate yourselves and have hard conversations. I'm sure all of us in here have family members who are across the political spectrum. I sure do. We can't turn away from each other. We can't tune each other out. It's killing us. So you may not agree with me some of the time, but every once in a while I say something that makes sense to you. Get curious about that. But we have to be willing to take to the streets. We do. And I'm not talking about taking to the streets, having a riot, burning things down. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying stand in the principles on which this country was founded. And I was so inspired by what happened in Hungary a few days ago. That's where my family's from. They said, no, you're not a king. We need to have that same frame of reference right now. Okay, we really, really do, and we have to work those muscles. I'm gonna come over here, and I'm happy to talk more after about what we can do. Yes?
Joe Chichi, Derby, Vermont. My issue to get all excited about is the Constitution and the liberties we're losing day by day. I spent 40 years in uniform, and another 30 years. Another 30 years in civil service to the government and the FAA. So my retirement comes from all you folks, and I think it was a dirty deal the way the House handed the Senate a budget and then left like rats leaving a sinking ship. I watched it on CNN. And then you guys in the Senate had to vote on that one way or the other, either shut down the government or fund it and go along with Trump's ways. Either way you voted, you lost. Now, my comment is you've been asking, telling us to help and how to do it, stand up and all that. I'm tired of Republicans versus Democrats pointing the finger back and forth. You guys need to stand together. There's two parties now. There's a party of Trump and a Democratic Party. And you need to get together and solve it together. That's what you're there for. I understand you're afraid of coming to your house. They're afraid of what's going on in primary and all that. As was said, President's own words, there'll be a little pain. Well, stand up, get a backbone, and fight this guy, and you're going to have to take some of that pain, because that's what we sent you there for. I do have a job these days. My job title, official job title is taxpayer. And Ms. Balint, one critical thing that everybody needs to keep in mind here across the country is that, and with your family background, is that in the 30s, Hitler was voted in office.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your service. And I should have mentioned, and you reminded me, that thousands and thousands of veterans have lost their jobs in the last few weeks because of the cuts that have happened that have been indiscriminate. They have not been done carefully, and that is deeply troubling to me. And I agree with you. I agree with you. If you're not willing to lose your seat over a vote, then get the hell out of the way. And I'm gonna just tell a quick little story so that you know where I'm coming from. And I agree with you. I think that it's not about also Republican or Democrat right now. It's about people who are willing to stand up for the Constitution and people who are not. And I have friends, Republicans, who are sickened by what they see happening right now. And they are doing their part. So I want to be really clear. I am a Democrat, but I don't serve as a Democrat. I serve as your representative. When I was first elected to Congress, it's kind of a funny thing that happens. You win, and then, like the next week, they fly you down to DC, and you have to have an orientation, and you learn how to do all your things. You barely wrapped your head around the fact that you won. I'm gonna get to you next, I promise. I see you in the orange jacket. And you barely have your feet under you, and they fly you down there, and it's done in a bipartisan manner. Democrats and Republicans they all go to the same workshops. We all learn the same things about ethics, how to set up your office, and we're all just a bunch of freshmen who know nothing, right? And we're sitting together. And you get to know the people in your caucus because you also have side meetings. So Democrats meet, Republicans meet. And it was early on in my orientation, and I got to breakfast early, and I could tell really quickly from looking around the room that I was the only Democrat. And I could have made a decision to go back to my hotel room and not have any awkward conversations. But I decided we are all Americans. We all got elected the same. Probably the yucky stuff that happened on my race happened on theirs too. So I sat down, and they just assumed I was a Republican. Which was really interesting because they kept saying things like, well, you know how it is when the RNC gets involved, and you know how it is when so-and-so gets involved. And I thought, well, I could just sort of fly under the radar here and just have a pleasant breakfast. But I said, I don't know about that because I'm actually a Democrat. And you could have heard a pin drop, okay? It was super awkward. And I could see it on their faces, like, why are you still sitting here? Basically, like, what are you doing? And I said, look, if we can't sit together and have a muffin and a coffee together, it's not that Congress is broken, it's that this country is broken. So I'm gonna sit here with you. And long story short, one of the staffers for one of those Republican members, he, unbeknownst to me, was watching me all week. And the day at the end of orientation, I saw him in the hotel, and he said, Representative Balint, I've been looking for you. I didn't want you to leave without me saying goodbye. And he said, I didn't know what to make of you when you sat down with us. He said, but I've been watching you, and my mom's a teacher, and I looked at your bio, and you're a teacher, and I can see you're trying to find common ground, and I really respect that. And he did that thing that young people do right now when they don't know how to show affection, and he said, can I get a selfie? And so we did that, and his boss is still somebody that I am friendly with, and we often vote in opposite manners. But I have gotten to know her, and I know that she's trying to do the right thing. So I'm going to continue having those conversations. I play on the bipartisan women's softball team. I'm part of many bipartisan caucuses. And if they are gettable, if there are 3 people that will jump together, I'm looking for them every single day. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Cal Page, and I live in Brownington. And I just have to tell you, in terms of being afraid, my grandfather flew a plane in World War I in France against fascism. My dad served in the South Pacific on a destroyer to stop fascism. And I'm here today to tell you that I'll work legally within any system to stop fascism from taking over America.
Yes.
And the area that I've looked at the whole spectrum of things. The area that's of interest to me is perhaps we could push the Democratic Party to support more working class people.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So my question
No
is,
question.
are you working with the Democrats to try to change their platform? It's called the corporatist, to move them from there to supporting the middle class and working classes in America.
I really am glad you brought that up. So, I did not come for money. My dad came here as an immigrant. He and his mom really came here with next to nothing. He was able to be successful because he enlisted in the Army, and as many immigrants do, to try to get ahead. Both my mom's family and my dad's extended family, they're working class people. And I do feel like my side of the aisle has become too smug, and we've forgotten how to listen. And we don't have to be the people in the room that is always acting like we're the smartest people in the room. It's the turnoff. And we've lost sight of the fact that our policies that we have championed have not been always directed at the people who are most in need of a fair shot, not a handout, a fair shot. The tax code right now, not a fair shot. At all. At all. Making sure that we have pathways to good jobs for people and getting that training they need so they're not going into debt getting that training. And I bring this up a lot with my colleagues. And some people are willing to do that deep, hard work of reflecting on where we've gone wrong, and some are not. And I'm going to continue to push that narrative that we don't feel. So when I talk to Democrats, I say, we feel like the work that we've done has been materially beneficial to folks in the working class and the middle classes. But if the bottom line of what you're taking home every week, if your insurance costs are continuing to rise, if you can't afford your rent or you can't buy a house, it doesn't matter if it's gotten a little bit better, it's still terrible. So let's call it for what it is. So I was a teacher, and I studied a period of time 100 years ago, the Gilded Age, when we had extreme wealth, and the rest of people just, starving. I always say they didn't have a pot to piss in. That's where we are right now. That is where we are. The gross economic inequality in this country is obscene, and it is driving part of this intense division. If we're not focused on that, if we're not focused on uniting working people, then we are on the wrong track, 100%. I want to tell you one other thing too, and I am still processing this, and then I'll get to you at the end. I had this conversation with young people right after the election, and it's a pretty diverse group of college students, and I said, so how are you feeling about politics? And they said, we're disgusted. I said, okay, tell me more. And they said, well, on the one hand, it feels like we were watching this campaign that turned so nasty and so mean, and you know, it feels like we're scapegoating people, and I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to be part of that meanness. And they said, on the other side, I feel like there's a party that doesn't give each other grace, that everybody needs to say things exactly the right way or do things exactly the right way, and that they're spending too much time figuring out who's on the inside and who's on the outside. And that was from young people. And that really hit me, that if we're not trying to build broad coalitions of people, if we're asking people for perfection before they can be part of a movement, what are we doing? We're all flawed, every single one of us. And we have to include people in whatever movement we're doing for a fair shot for everybody. And we don't have that right now. And that's why I'm disgusted by the fact that they're gonna gut Medicaid, gut Social Security to pay for another tax break for people who don't need it. So here and then over here. Yep. So we're gonna go here, we're gonna go there, and then we're gonna go here. Okay.
so agitate, that's one of the 3 things you said.
Yes, right.
And we're in a rural area. I don't talk politics with a lot of people. I have strong feelings. Thank you for all you're doing. But I keep asking people how. It's like, we gotta do it, how? So I called your office and somebody there suggested looking up the website indivisible.org. And I did that, and I looked up peoplepowerunited.org, and I've started doing little things. But how do we, like, I'm from Troy. I want to get together with people in Newport. I don't know how to do it. Is there some way you can help us? Because for you to say agitate leaves me warm.
I understand. I appreciate that.
I postcards, but
Yeah.
I need to get with other people. And you know, it sounds like other people here are doing those same things individually. So how do we do it? I want to know exactly how I'm going to do this because I can't seem to figure it out.
I appreciate that. And this is where I'm going to get a little weird on you because I am here in my official capacity as the Congresswoman for the state of Vermont. I am not here as someone on the political side. So I've got 2 offices. I've got a campaign side and I have an official side. And on the official side, I can't really talk about how to connect you with these organizations that have a political bent, okay? That doesn't mean that I can't huddle with my team afterwards and figure out how to help folks in more rural areas feel like they can come together and find each other. So I am taking that very, very seriously, what you're asking. And when I also say agitate, what I mean is sort of, I used to say it was activating as opposed to agitating. So we know that the fiber that has been holding us together as a society is breaking down. We have a lot of fear and distrust of each other. We see it creeping into school board meetings and select board meetings and city council meetings across Vermont in ways that we never used to see. And so even pulling people together from different political views to literally just break bread together, once again, to sit down, I'm serious, to sit down and say, okay, tonight we're just gonna have a meal together and we're gonna talk about our kids and we're gonna talk about our schools and what we value about our community. And then maybe as you go on, you do a couple of those and then people realize, you know what? Maybe we are able to have a deeper conversation about politics. There is an organization that I can tell you that it's bipartisan and it's called, I believe it's called Living Room Conversations. It used to be called, no, you know what it is? I'm sorry, that's their program is called Living Room Conversations. Their organization is Braver Angels. It's Democrats and Republicans who work together to help folks set up coming together to talk about things. So Braver Angels, Living Room Conversations, and I will talk to my team about how to get the word out to all of you about other ways that you can connect. But I'm so afraid we're so far in our corners right now that we can't even break bread together, and I'm really worried about that. I'm really, really worried about that. Okay, so I saw, where did that man go? Yes, in the brown shirt, yes, I'm sorry, brown hat.
Rick Gagne from Holland, Vermont. Just a couple comments.
Yes.
You mentioned changing the Democratic platform. Just a comment is what I think might be a help, is it doesn't help when we get emails from Democrats asking for money.
100%, I know.
It's not my situation anyway.
Exactly, it feels very tone deaf.
Another thing I'd like to comment about, you mentioned that Medicaid was in cutting funds, and you mentioned hospitals. Just down the road here, we have a federal funded clinic.
That's right, you have your
My wife
FQHC,
just
yeah.
had an appointment there 2 days ago. Her primary care physician is getting done, because one of the requirements he has to do half of the day is respond back to some higher up as what he did that day. Even though they have a log that shows all the appointments of people coming and going,
Yep.
that doesn't satisfy whoever that is.
Okay.
So he's frustrated, and he
Of
says,
course.
I'm done. I have people I gotta see, I
Yeah.
don't have time for this bull crap.
Yeah.
And
I want to see patients. I don't want to be tied up in this
so he
jumping over hoops.
He's answering to somebody that wants to know what he's doing, just like any other federal
Yeah.
situation or employee.
Okay.
Which is a concern to me.
So I wonder if we could connect with you after, I wonder if he'd be willing to talk to my team so we can get a little bit more details from him and we can chase that down. Thank you for bringing that up. Really appreciate it. And over here, yes.
I'm Rita LaFerrier, and I've been a community health nurse for over 50 years and lived in Essex County for over 50 years. I currently work for Rural Edge, which is a housing organization that has done an incredible job at doing affordable housing. But I also am on the board for the Northeast Kingdom Community Action, NEK Choice for School, and Northern Counties Healthcare. And all of these board meetings, there's been focus on all these Medicaid cuts and federal funding cuts. And I'm not sure what we would recommend that as board members, we are able to communicate to folks who are greatly in need. As you know, I think the select person said that Essex County has the highest number of people over 65 and the largest number of people on Medicaid in the state of Vermont.
Thank you so much. So yeah, we didn't even really talk about all the federal programs that were shut down unilaterally overnight. And so a lot of those programs that were shut down, the president, the executive branch didn't have the authority to do that, okay? And I think this is what is so challenging, is because there are rights and responsibilities that each branch has. And the executive branch, regardless of party, whoever the president is, they can't just decide to slash programs that Congress has already funded. Because Congress in the Constitution is given the power of the purse. Congress, they raise the taxes, they determine how the money's going to be raised and then spent. And so it is within any president's ability to decide, I really want to move policy-wise in this particular direction in away from this other direction. Of course, every president, regardless of party, wants to put their stamp on it. But what we're seeing is shutting down of programs that Congress set up, and we are not able to get clear answers to those organizations, to those boards. People will call our office and say, we're supposed to be able to draw down these federal dollars to keep the doors open, and we can't get somebody on the phone to answer our question. We go to draw the money and we're getting an error message. And then so oftentimes, this is the scary part. Oftentimes, we're learning from you what is happening in the field because we're not getting that information from the White House. And so if that is happening, you gotta let us know. And we have been able to chase some things down, and we're gonna continue to do that. But if you are in an organization that is owed federal funds, it's the other thing. Oh my gosh, I was talking with a business in Burlington. They just did a huge expansion because of money that they were promised from the CHIPS and Science Act. They did the expansion and now they're supposed to get half of it reimbursed. They're being told, no, you can't get that money anymore. That's not how it works. And so all I can tell you is as soon as you have information, please call my office and let us know, because we may not even be aware of what's happening. It does, it changes, I would say it changes by the hour, actually. So I'm not sure.
Just a couple more questions.
Thomas, can you tell me who out there is?
Hi there, Lisa Brown. I live in Newark. I'm a retired teacher. I I think this, I agree with everything that's being said. My concern is the fact that our democracy is really imperiled.
Yeah,
And
I do.
the shock and awe of destroying institutions
Yes.
has been incredibly effective. And, you know, the courts move at their pace, and they've been doing a pretty good job. But what do we do when the president disregards court orders? I mean, I think that's where we're at now.
That is where we're at.
And that, to
Yes.
me, is terrifying. And I know
I
we
agree.
don't, anyway.
So I could talk about, yes, thank you for that. So this is the dilemma that we're having. Again, I'm going to peel back the curtain. This is the dilemma. I have spent years of my life on the campaign trail talking about the threats to democracy. Because of my background, but also because I was a teacher for years. And it matters to me. What we have seen is that when you talk to voters across the country, when you ask them how important democracy is to them, it's down around 4th or 5th. Because it's immediate concerns. It's healthcare, it's prices, right? It's the existential issues that people have for taking care of their families. And so part of the work that we all have to do, and that's why I say democracy takes all of us, is that if I'm putting out information about how Trump is doing X or Elon is doing something and it's a threat to democracy, what we find is people just tune out. So that isn't the way to invite people into the conversation, right? So you have to think about connecting the dots. So why should you care that the Republicans are trying to shut down programs that Congress funded, and that's unconstitutional? Because your federally qualified health center might shut down, and then you won't have the health care. And so we're trying to figure this out in real time, but it is a punch in the gut every time, because we do a ton of polling across the country. How do we get the message out about what's happening? And when we continue to talk about democracy, people are tuning out. It feels overwhelming. And that's why it takes all of us to connect those dots. And that is the reason that I ran for Congress, was the threats to the democracy. That's why I ran. And when I was in one of my early debates, they asked me, what did I think was the biggest concern for us globally? And I said, without missing a beat, it is the rise of authoritarianism, because it's happening around the globe. And that is a deep, deep threat to democracy and rule by the people. And so, would love your thoughts after, if you have a chance to connect, if you can think about ways we can talk about it, because that is, at my core, what keeps me up at night, is that thing. Oh my gosh, so many.
One more.
All right, you gotta pick it, David, don't make me pick.
We have this particularly enthusiastic person.
I wish I could stay for hours. We're gonna go down to Johnson and do an event there as well, or else I would just park it here for the day. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. I live in Derby, and my teacher was Lisa Grout.
Oh, hey, I love that.
I want to plug in for Northeast Kingdom Organizing to answer your question over here. We're a grassroots-based organizing project.
You can do the thing that I can't say. I love it.
Bringing NKers together across perceived differences. This year, we led the flood response in the kingdom, organizing almost 300 volunteers to muck out basements between Lunenburg, Lyndonville, Barton, and beyond. And there's so many fronts to fight here in the kingdom, and we need every single one of you.
So say the name again.
Northeast Kingdom Organizing. Talk to Penny, myself, or Bethany today, and we'd love to get you connected.
Can they find it online?
Yes, they can, and on Facebook and the socials.
All the things.
Can I ask one question, though?
Of course.
I'm also a community organizer presenter with the Center for an Agricultural Economy, and I'm deeply concerned about some of the USDA's cuts, particularly
Yes.
the LFPA funding that just cuts the local food purchasing assistance program that literally just paid farmers a livable wage.
I know.
To get local food to local people.
Yeah.
And how can
So-
we support farmers and what's being done?
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. These are the other dots that we need to connect. And that's what I'm doing with some of my Republican colleagues that also represent rural districts. Some of the policy changes that this administration has made has been devastating for farmers. And it's going to continue like this. I know a lot of people wanted to shut down USAID. I hear this on the Republican side. But when it happened, they didn't realize that meant they were cutting billions and billions of dollars from our farmers here in this country who grow that food. So it's all connected. So we're not getting answers in real time about these programs, but we do know that that's a place where I can try to make the case across the aisle. It's not just Vermont farmers, it's farmers across the country, and we have to have secure food systems. So I appreciate the question, and if you have particular concerns about a particular program, please connect with us staff. Thank you so much for turning out today. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Just a reminder to folks, there is still food over in the corner. We can't take it all back to the office, so please take food before you leave.
Well, Yeah, I have this training if I'm looking for testimonies. Yeah. For this, really farmers. Yeah. Schools. If we're focused on LFPA, then we're focusing more on LFPA. We're not missing anything. Unlike excuse me. So sorry. Yeah, here we are. Becca Balint. So, but yeah. I know, yeah, right, yes. I mean, just
Yeah. Let me know if you need something.